We have arrived at the popular Suzuka International Racing Course in the Mai Prefecture for the running of the Japanese Grand Prix, the fifth to last race of the season. Coming into this week, one team has announced one of its drivers this week. The team in question is Williams, as they have announced that six-time race winner Felix Sonntag will remain with the team for another season. Felix has had a good 2019 despite this year's Williams being worse compared to last season. He currently lies 18th in the Drivers' Championship, 6 points behind fellow German David Kupak, and his team Williams lie 10th in the Constructors, 7 points ahead of nearest rivals Manor. Despite a shaky second half of the season, Felix has had a very good season, with his best moments coming at Baku and Monaco. He was able to get a very solid points finish, with him arguably having more in Baku than what he got as a result of contact that he had in the closing stages with the Haas of Chris Chatfield, which forced him to change his front wing. Felix will be relieved to know that he will still be with the Oxfordshire-based team for another season, and he'll be looking to help the team improve next season, and hopefully in the fantasy era as well, if he stays on. The question now lies on who his teammate will be, with Lincoln Parner looking more likely to leave the team at the end of the season as a result of him putting Racing Point down as his number one choice, and the fact that Williams are ahead of Racing Point in the pick order. It looks highly likely that it will be a rookie that will partner alongside Felix Sonntag next season, with current GP2 Championship contender Jamie Griffiths and current DTM Championship leader Daniel Fraser being the main contenders for that second Williams seat, with Daniel also being the contender for Haas if he misses out on Williams. It will be very interesting to see who Williams ends up going with as Felix's teammate for 2020. And that is it for this week's edition of the GP4 OC News. The next team news will break at the Mexican Grand Prix next week, who will be announced due into practice next week at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And here's my voice again. Hello everyone and welcome to the practice session here at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. I am JW97 and today I am joined by a man who made his commentary debut this past weekend. His name is Miran Efci. How are you doing?
Yeah, great to be in the commentary booth with you, Joe. Yeah, I'm doing very well. Looking forward to this practice and qualifying ahead of us. And yeah, just very excited to be here.
Indeed. Well, the practice session has just got underway as Yuri just clicked on the cursor there as we just wait to get into the pit lane. Now, of course, you would have just seen the news there that Felix Sonntag will indeed remain at Williams for another season, third successive season, in fact. Obviously, now the question surrounding on who his teammate will be, but I think overall, looking at it, I think Felix deserves another season at Williams. He's had quite a decent season, I'd have to say.
Yeah, he definitely does. Considering how long he has been in the main tier and his performances, I'd say I have to agree with you there. Very good performances from him, but the elusive question still remains on who will be his teammate at Williams.
Well, we've seen in the news video that it looks like it's going to be between Jamie Griffiths and Daniel Fraser, given that Lincoln Parner put Racing Point down as his number one choice, and because Williams are ahead of Racing Point in the pick order, it means obviously that Lean can't be retained. So it looks highly likely that he's going to be out of a drive. As meantime, we've got some pit activity now. It looks like Loa Chung's going to be the first to come out onto the racetrack. There are no test drivers out here today, guys, but there will be some in the next race, that's for sure. At least two, unless well, in fact, no, they can't really. I don't think any of the usual GP2 drivers that usually request to go out in practice can do that, really, because next week is a GP2 race down in Mugello, so I think that's going to be difficult with the logistic rule that we have with GP2 drivers. So, yeah, as Loa Chung is the first out onto the racetrack here at Suzuka. In my opinion, well, it is my opinion, because it clearly matters, it is my favourite track. So, yeah, it is my favourite track. Obviously, I was a little bit disappointed that it got cancelled for a second year in a row in real life, but it is a driver's circuit. The drivers love it, and I really love the track as well, especially with its history that it's got. So in the past here in GP4OC, it has produced some very good racing and some very clean racing in the last few seasons. Usually the races are a little bit short around here, so I would probably, yeah, it's usually one of the great races for GP4 OC. So what do you make of the track as a whole, Miran?
Oh, well, I regard this circuit very highly. It's got a lot of history to it, as you said. And it's just generally a very good track. It has so many notable corners, very high speed, and yeah, it's a legendary circuit. Honestly, it's one that can't be forgotten in both Formula One and racing history.
Indeed, definitely, especially with all the history it's had. We've in the history of the OC, we've only had one championship decided here in Japan. That was back in 2009 with Miklos Gau. Sadly, no championship is going to get decided this week. Although Franco Lopez has a big lead over Miklos Gau and Joseph Willows, both of whom are tied in second place. He can't mathematically win it in this race. Depending on what happens in this race, though, he could do it at Mexico, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I might be wrong with the mathematics on that. But I think it would be a bit of an ask if he was to try and have a chance at winning it at Mexico. But we will see. Lots of things have happened in the OC, that's for sure. Meantime, Chung is coming up towards the end of the first sector, 29.957. This is where we usually see quite a lot of the overtaking being done at Suzuka. Of course, Laura Chong will be hoping that she doesn't have the terrible race that she had there last season when she was a little bit of a troublemaker, when she caused some incidents with George Roque and Felix Sontag last season. She'll be hoping that doesn't happen this time around, especially that she's now towards the front in a Ferrari. So that's one thing she'll have to be aware of. Obviously, the big crash she had with Felix is just at this corner here, the spoon curve. We have seen some big accidents here in the past, but the one we had last season was the first in a while, I think. We saw an accident at that corner. Well, an accident of that magnitude, I should say. Luckily, both of them okay after that accident. She's also got George Roque right behind us. We now look at Matteo Catalan, who's trying to get by on Kirishima De Rosa, and looks like he's going to get it done at the 130R. This is also another place where we see a lot of the overtaking being done, providing you get the overlap before the corner. So, and Catalan is able to do that. I don't know if that's going to cost him a bit of time. I don't know if De Rosas have held him up earlier on in the lap, but we will see. As we're going to see some lap times pretty soon on the left-hand side, as we've got a bit of a train here. Chung does a 131.234. That's the benchmarker for practice. Roque just 3 tenths behind in second place, as Catalan now goes to the top, in fact, so maybe got a healthy bit of slipstream to go to the top at the moment. De Rosa currently in 4th position, Titkoff 5th, Fosbury goes to 4th in the Haas, with Gomez going to 3rd. Willows now tops the session by 4 tenths on a 130.381. As we look back at Chung, he's actually coming back into the pits this lap, so only one flying lap to do with. Of course, the tyres we're using for this week is the medium tyres. It's been a while since we've used the soft tyres, to be honest. I wonder when we get to see those red tyres again, that's for sure. As we saw a few lap times there, Garbo only sit, Carr 3rd behind Catalan, as Mackenzie trying to get by on his teammate through 130R. Lopez goes to the top, but only by 500ths ahead of Josie Wells, and it looks like Burns just going to hold it on into the Casio chicane there. As Gal goes into 7th, Mottram was 10th, but dropped to 11th. Dairy goes into 12th position, a man who a lot of people thought was going to get announced this week, but didn't. Chatfield goes into 10th, as the Renaults, because of their hold-up, are only 18th and 19th on that first run. Tomaselli 15th, Sontag is 16th, re-signed Felix Sontag, I should say, and Campana goes into 19th position as Fosbury tries to make a move on one of the manners here, but isn't able to do so. Can't quite tell which manner that was. It kind of went through quite quickly there, with just over 20 minutes to go, as Chung will make her way back into the pits. So, overall, Mirren, what have you made of the season overall? Because I know you haven't commentated the top class so far, but what have you made of the season overall?
Well, it's been very interesting to say the least, considering that Lopez has this championship lead. It does look quite, how should I say, quite unchallengeable, considering it's a 50-point lead over Gal and Willows. But I'd still say that second place would be up for grabs quite a lot, as both the second and third are tied on points. But yeah, it's been very entertaining, and I've enjoyed it quite a lot. So yeah, definitely looking forward to how this season will end off.
Indeed, with 5 races left, including this one, anything could still happen. I mean, of course, last time out, the championship leader, Franco Lopez, crashed out after contact with his teammate and then further contact with Kirishima De Rosa. In fact, the last race was just wild, to say the least, and very controversial at the end as well, which has resulted in somebody getting a very hefty penalty. I should point out, on the topic of penalties, there are 2 drivers, of course, who have grid penalties for this race we need to keep an eye on. One of them is Franco Lopez, of course. He got a penalty for the collision with his teammate Amar Carr, so he'll drop 5 places to the on the grid, so he will definitely not take pole position in this race. And of course, the other one is Gabriel Gomez, of course. Along with the 25-second time penalty that he had last week, he also got a 10-place grid penalty as well for causing that massive pile-up. It's a OC first, that one is. Somebody getting a time penalty and a grid penalty. So wherever Gomez ends up in the qualifying session a little bit later, he'll drop 10 places back. So a bit of a one to note there as Mackenzie and I believe that's Tomaselli just get by there on Evan Byrne, the current teammate of Byrne getting through, and the future teammate of Byrne getting through as well, as they've got one of the Williamses closing them down. De Rosa improves, but only slightly, remains in 17th position. The McLaren's only 15th and 17th so far in this practice session. Although it does look like that 4th is very comfortable for that team, considering the big gap they've got to all the other teams behind, because there is a big scrap for 5th place going on between Alfa Romeo, Toro Rosso, Racing Point, and of course Renault. It'll be very interesting to see who will come out of that one on top there, but it looks like McLaren have pretty much got 4th secured given the gap they've got to that group. As we've got George Rote we're looking at the moment, who's currently holding up Matteo Catalan, the only person who we know is not going to be on the grid next season, of course, because he failed to sign up in the 2020 sign-ups, hence why Chris Chatfield is going to be replacing him next season, moving over from Haas, hence why we've got Dudu Kirby making his debut next season at Haas, replacing him. So it'll be interesting to see what Kirby does next season, as Mackenzie does improve, but only up into 16th position. His teammates still down 21st position. Catalan having trouble getting by there on Roke at the spoon curve, but might be able to do so down the 130R because he was able to do an overtake a little bit earlier down here. Let's see if Catalan is able to do that, unless the autocam decides to change over through the 130R, and I think he's just quite got the overlap, unless Roke can get late on the brakes into the Casio chicane, which he doesn't, so Catalan just able to pass him there. And again, one of the common overtaking places that we're probably going to be seeing in the race tomorrow. 53 laps, of course, coming your way tomorrow. Usually one of the shortest races we have in the OC, but usually full of entertainment as well, and very good strategy calls as well. Strategy and overtaking seem to be a big thing around here at Suzuka. As Lopez, meanwhile, of course, one of the guys who's got a grid penalty this race, along with Gabriel Gomez, just making a move there on Rosetta Martinez. For him, really, in qualifying, it's basically try and get as high up as possible and then hope that he doesn't drop too much down on the grid.
Yeah, I agree with what you say there, especially considering with the grid penalty. I do believe we were talking about that.
Yes, we were.
Okay.
We were.
Yeah, obviously it is quite a major setback. Never would you like to have a grid penalty, and yeah, it's just about managing it as well as you can and try to make it up for in the race.
Where Lopez will end up on the grid tomorrow is going to be a question. As meantime, Mackenzie and Tomaselli have made some big improvements. Tomaselli goes up to 5th, Mackenzie goes up into 8th position. So seeing as they've cleared Byrne, they're able to open up the taps a little bit more in their cars. As meantime, we look at Joseph Willows, who's trying to get by on one of the Manners. Not sure which Manor it is. I think that's Maxim Titkov, because that's a Danica Fiat helmet. So that is Titkov that Willows is currently being held up by. At this point, we now look at Matteo Catalan. Through the Casio chicane he goes, as Mackenzie could get overtaken by the man who's going to be replacing him at Renault next season, Paolino Tomaselli, and does so very cleanly there. So Tomaselli goes through there at the double right-hander, which name keeps escaping me. So that's that. As we now ride on board with Catalan, he's coming into the pits this lap as he goes through the famous S's on this track. We have seen a couple of crashes here in the past, usually due to understeer moments that happened, but I don't think we've seen one for quite a while at that corner, although I could be wrong on that one. Up the hill he goes, past the bit where we unfortunately lost Jules Bianchi all those years ago. It still haunts the memory of everybody as well, and can't really believe it's nearly 7 years since that accident happened, that fateful weekend in October. But he's still in our hearts, that's for sure. And who knows, really, whether he and Leclerc could have ever been teammates in the future. But unfortunately, we'll never know. As we now look at Lincoln Parner now then, who is a little bit off the pace in the second sector. A man who we believe might not be on the grid next season, given his pick order was a bit muddled up. He obviously put Racing Point down as his first choice, as we talked about a little bit earlier. But, of course, as we know, the Racing Point driver lineup got announced quite early, and it is obviously the same as this season. Roland Motrin and George Rote. Roland Motrin, as we are on the topic of him, I think people are still feeling the pain of Russia. It was like last season with Maxim Titkov. It's something to do with Russia, where people leave with leave a bit gutted, really, because we all thought that Roland was going to end his podium drought that he's been having now for the last 9 seasons. And when it looked like it was going to happen, something has to get in the way. And I don't know what you thought of that, really, Mirren.
It's always the ones who have gone long without podiums, isn't it? When you expected the most, it just gets snapped away from you, or snatched away from you. In those times. Certainly unfortunate for Roke, but I do definitely think that he will get his chance sometime. I definitely hope he does.
I was talking about Roland, not George. Roland's the one with the podium drought. George got the podium, ironically, at Russia last season, which ironically was caused by a Roland Mottrim penalty. But whilst we were talking there, Berner's gone up to 6th, and Gal has now gone to the top of the timing sheets by 3 tenths out of Lopez. He's on a 1 minute 30.004. Miklos, of course, who has come definitely a long way compared to last season, to the point now where he's currently second in the championship, tied with Joseph Willows. I think if Lopez ends up winning the championship, given the big gap he's got, I think that battle for second is going to be very interesting between Gal and Willows.
It definitely will, considering that they both are tied on points at the moment. So it's... I'd say it is very stacked at the moment, considering that they have a lot of high finishing places between each other. So, in these last few races, that's definitely going to be a battle to watch for second in the championship standings. Definitely going to be very exciting.
Indeed, I just had to refresh my stream there for a moment on YouTube because for some reason YouTube was telling me that there was a problem with the quality. It decided to have a bit of a moan at me, but no issues with the stream, that's for sure. It's just YouTube being YouTube on my end. So that's that. As meantime, we've got Gamba who's trying to get by on Lower Chung. Gamba, of course, has had a bit of a shaky season, it must be said, in his first season for Red Bull. There's still a bit of a question mark as to who will be Miklos Gal's teammate next season. Will Gamba still be around for next season, or will it be Jay McKenzie who will get the seat? Because we know now that McKenzie is leaving Renault at the end of the season. It's really kind of a debate at the moment. People are currently leaning towards Franco Gamba getting retained, but you never know, of course. In these last few races, the pendulum could switch.
It definitely could. You can't really predict this championship quite a lot, can you? We never know what's going to happen next. But I'd say Gamba looks pretty good at the moment. But then again, I can't really know. We can't really know for sure. So, yeah.
While we're on the topic there of Gamba, we might as well talk about another member of the Gamba Mafia, as everybody's been quoting it, because there seems to be a group of drivers who are within that Mafia group. Andrea Videri is another one, obviously good friends with Franco Gamba. A lot of people were thinking that he was going to get retained this week, but I think a lot of people were caught a little bit surprised about that, about Andrea Videri. But it's fair to say he's had quite a decent rookie season, it must be said, for Andre. Obviously, the last few races, he's kind of had a few dips here and there, but in the last race, he, although it was a lucky 5th place finish, he was still there to capitalise, and he still put on a very good performance in Russia.
Yeah, it was quite a good performance from the Italian. As you said, maybe it had a bit of luck mixed in there, but it was still pretty good, and as you said, he capitalized it on quite a lot. So yeah, it was a good 5th place for Andrea.
You could say some conspiracy theories with his teammate there, given he was the one that caused that that pile up at turn 14, which ultimately gave Gomez that 10-place grid penalty. But that's that really. As meanwhile, we look at George Roke, who currently lies in 14th, and it's been as George has just mentioned there in the stream chat, in fact, it's a very good point, in fact. It always seems like the racing points never seem to really show some pace in practice. They always seem to hold back until the qualifying session, hence why they're currently down in 14th and 15th at the moment in this session. And as meantime, Tomaselli further improves to go up into 4th position, meanwhile, so he gets in front of his fellow compatriot, Matteo Catalan, to be 4 tenths behind Miklos Gal, as Videri had a little bit of a moment there going through the crossover section at Suzuka, of course, because this is the only figure of 8 track we have on the calendar. Of course, it being figure of 8 because the track obviously crosses over on itself. In fact, some interesting points about Suzuka, thanks to a video that I saw from Southpaw Racer. In fact, the original plans for Suzuka were very, very interesting, because there was original plans that there was going to be more than just one crossover point with Suzuka, with the original plans that Honda had for this track. But they obviously ended up just sticking with the one crossover. So, yes, some very interesting points about when they were when they were planning on constructing this track. Obviously, this track has been around for a very long time now. I think it's been around since the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. As Gal's struggling to get by on one of the Alfa Romeos there. Might be Andre Verderi, I think he's struggling to get by. As we have just under 8 3/4 minutes to go in this session. Gal is obviously not going to improve because he's been held up by the Alfa Romeo in front there, and 3.9 seconds off. Nearly 4 seconds off his personal best at the moment, which is a 1 minute 30.004 at this point in time. So at the moment, this is how the practice session currently looks. It's Gal at the top with Lopez in second, Willow's third, Tomaselli fourth, with Catalan in fifth, Carr in sixth, Burns seventh, Chung in eighth, Gomez ninth, Mackenzie currently rounding out the top 10 with Garma all the way down in 11th position, Kupok in 12th, Chatfield 13th, Roke 14th, Motrin 15th, Verderi 16th, Fosbury in 17th with Sontag 18th, De Rosa 19th, Titkoff 20th, Campana 21st, and Martinez currently in last position. Although Martinez did just improve there, but still remains in last position as Gal still has problems trying to get by on Verderi. Verderi not coming into the pits this lap, so Gal will have to put up with him a little bit more if he's not able to pass him on track. As they make their way up through the hairpin, we've got a mechanical problem for Felix Sontag, the man who's being retained by Williams for next season. So a mechanical failure here for Felix Sontag. What seems to be the problem for the German? And it is a transmission problem for Sontag. So something wrong in the gearbox for Felix Sontag, and that is not good news for Williams, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely not good news for the man they just re-signed. But that will put an end to Sontag's session then, a very abrupt end. With 7 minutes remaining in this practice session, I think he should be able to get out for qualifying again, as here is a replay of what happened.
Luckily, there are spare cars on Grand Prix 4 because this was based on the 2001 season. This is just a mod, of course. But yeah, the problem just happening at turn 1 there, as you can see there. So it's just a bit unfortunate that it happened just as he passed the pit lane.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Must be said. So, yeah, they're gonna have to retrieve the car from there. But yeah, we'll be seeing him back in qualifying then.
We might see him a little bit later on in the practice session, of course, because we do have spare cars on Grand Prix 4, thankfully. But luckily, the budget isn't too expensive, unlike in Formula 1. So that's that, really. As his car is just getting pulled over to the side there, probably towards the closest barrier, so then the crane can lift it up as Campana, his teammate, really well, has just outpaced him at the moment to go up into 18th position. As now the car is being hoisted over the barriers, and we might see Felix run towards the spare car and probably get out before the session comes to a close. We will see, of course, as his car decided to do a little bit of acrobatics there. They're probably feeling, no, that's not the best place to place a car. Probably let's try and do it on the other side, which might slow some AI down because it is quite a typical thing with Grand Prix 4 when they see cars floating in the air. Unless they're changing their mind now, it seems they're going back on their plan. They're thinking, nah, maybe actually over on this barrier, actually, probably a little bit safer than that barrier because it's not, although there is a slope there isn't that much of a slope in the hill there on the other. But there you go, they've cleared the car now. A little bit of confusion there, what was going on with the marshals there, what they were trying to do with the the Williams there. As meantime, Mackenzie goes up into P5. He gets himself in front now of Matteo Catalan. As meantime, one of the McLarens is trying to get by on Rosetta Martinez. Not sure which McLaren that is. Just trying to get by. Can't quite tell with the helmet there whether it's the Francois Sever helmet or the Nick Heifeld helmet. The Sever helmet, of course, being Kirishima De Rosa's helmet, and the Nick Heifeld helmet being Paolino Tomaselli's helmet. As Gal still not able to get by on Verderi at the moment, and Verderi's still not coming into the pits at the moment. So that's that really. As meantime, Verderi still struggling, still keeping back Gal at the moment. As we have a look at a replay here of how much Gal is being impeded by. It looked like Gal was trying to make a move to the Casio chicane there. And in fact, was there actually some contact that we just missed there? And yes, there was. There was contact at the Casio chicane. In fact, I just missed that. But yes, just a tiny bit of contact there between Gal and Verderi. It's usually quite a common place where we see some contact, but luckily nothing serious. It's just sometimes like to do a little bit of love tapping, as I like to call it. When it comes to open wheel, as if it was cars, I'd normally just call it a I call it the same thing. I don't know what I'm talking about there. But anyway, Obviously, we call it a bump and run whenever somebody bumps somebody off and then overtakes, providing that car hasn't been crashed out, of course. So that's that. As Gal's probably still frustrated with Verdere behind, probably feels there's still a little bit more pace to find than the 1 minute 30.004. But of course, this is only the practice session, guys. This is not the qualifying just yet. The qualifying will come after this, as will Gal actually make the move this time into this right-hander. And again, no. Verdere just able to hang it around the outside. Gal still probably feeling a little bit more frustrated with Verdere, that's for sure. And why are people saying DeLorean? Did somebody call Flo DeLorean by accident there? Is he travelling at 78 miles per hour or something? As back to a future reference there. As Verdere, I think it was pretty obvious, but
yeah,
don't think. Still, not everybody I don't think has watched Back to the Future before. Probably won't get the reference. I'll be surprised, but there we are. Meantime, Gamba has improved, only to go up into 5th position, so behind fellow compatriot Paulino Tomaselli. So both Red Bulls now find themselves in the top 5. As Gal still struggling to find a way plus on Verdere there. As meantime, Amarcar is also behind an Alfa Romeo, but he's coming into the pits this lap. Let's see if he has more of an easier time of it than what Gal is having with Verdere. His car gets through easily there on Gomez, but it wouldn't really matter anyway because Car is coming into the pits. Meantime, Miklos Gal still being held up, and now we've got a Ferrari coming out onto the track. I'm not sure which Ferrari that is. That's Joseph Willows, actually, because the pit symbol's not next to his name. Chung is still in the Gala, so Joseph Willows has just come out onto the racetrack. As Franco Lopez, meanwhile, trying to get by on Byrne, and in fact, he's gone green in the first sector, in fact, but I don't know if that overtake is going to compromise him a little bit. He's only 700s up on Gal in the first sector. This is something to probably keep an eye on in the second sector. Speaking of Gal, he's coming into the pit, so he's had enough of Verdere, and he decided I'm coming in, as Verdere is not coming into the pit, as Willows is now part of this. As Willow's trying to find a way through on Gal there, but not going to work out. Luckily for him, Gal's coming into the pits, but he might have trouble with Verdere in a little bit. He's also got one of the Hassers behind him as well that might give him a little bit of trouble. All three of those teams, of course, powered by the very powerful Ferrari engine that's in the back. And so that's that. As Gal, again, going to see if he can try and make a move into Spoon Curve before he comes into the pits, but he does not. As so he's going to stay behind, I think, until he comes into the pit. So Miklos, this is probably it for him for today, just judging how much time there is left on the clock. I wonder if Lopez is going to improve. That's the thing, though, because he was green up in the first sector, but I don't know if his overtake on Byrne may have compromised that. We will see. I don't know if he's in front or behind Gal. That's the thing, as Gal comes into the pits. And we will see a little bit later. I'm not sure if Lopez has improved or not, as Willows is about to start his final flying lap to see if he can try and improve on that third place. As Rope, meanwhile, improves to go up into 12th position, as Fosby, meanwhile, tries to get by on Willows, but Willows saying no to that. Chung just comes out in time to do one more flying lap. Just saw the other Ferrari in the background just come into the pits there. Come out of the pits, I should say. As meantime, we look at Byrne now, who is struggling, it seems, a little bit, and making a little bit of a lock-up there. Luckily, keeping it on the track. We're going to have a look at the replay of this lock-up.
Yeah, so Burn, then you can see that it was a bit of a look up there, but nothing too major, at least from what it looked like. As you said, he was able to keep it on the track. As here, no, never mind.
Yeah, we've come out of the replay now.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, we're back on the live timing. As meanwhile, we ride on board with Byrne as we are approaching the end of the session very soon. As Roke is now getting stuck behind Jared Fosbury, and this might not help Laura Chung try and get one more flying lap in, because she's got these two cars in front of her that's going to compromise her to get above 10th place. I don't know what Willows and Lopez is doing at the moment. I don't know. I think Lopez didn't improve on his previous lap, so I think Byrne's hold-up might have affected him just a little bit when he approached Sector 2. But that's that, as we now ride on board. As meanwhile, we're now going to be viewing these cars now, because we're going to be seeing who's going to be the last to cross the line after the session closes. So Titkov across the line he goes, no improvement. Franco Lopez meanwhile improves but remains in second place, which is the 10th now between himself and Miklos Gal. Evan Byrne crosses the line, no improvement, as Campana will start one more flying lap before the session comes to a close. So we now look at Andrea Verdere as he will now round this long sweeping right-hander, which is very easy to understeer off, as we've seen many times in the past in Formula 1. Not been too much of an issue on GP4, but even so, no improvement there for Videri or Willows. Willows getting held up quite a bit there, as Chong is starting her lap, as she now tries to make a move on George Roke into turn 2 and gets the move done, but I fear that she's going to get held up by Fosbury very soon. Motrin doesn't improve. De Rosa gets one more lap in. Here comes Felix Sontag, who is in the spare car, might I add, is coming down the pit straight. And let's see, as he crosses the line, no improvement. He'll get one more lap in. Chatfield coming back into the pits. Catalan will just have enough time to do one more lap. Just enough time, just looking at the countdown and looking where he is on the track, he should be able to get one more lap in. He might be the last one to cross the line, in fact, because Tomaselli is a bit further back on the track, but we'll have to wait and see. Across the line goes Catalan with just how many seconds left on the clock? It's going to be just about 7 seconds left on the clock, as I think he will be the last car to cross the line, because Tomaselli is nowhere there. So Catalan is the last to cross the line, as the checkered flag is now out, and that is dots on the track, in fact. We did have a little bit of rain predicted at the beginning of the session, but it's coming a little bit too late, I think, because it's only just come on the straight, so whether it will affect lap time, I'm not sure. Garma doesn't improve. Mackenzie didn't have enough time, probably just getting out there for some mileage. Lopez, meanwhile, just comes around the last chicane. You can see the dots are starting to form on the track, but a little bit too late to affect anything in the leaderboard, that's for sure. As Lopez, across the line he goes, and no improvement remains where he is. Here comes Evan Byrne across the line. He will go in the Renault. And let's see, he does not improve. Lincoln Parner rounds the last chicane, as he will now make his way around a long swooping right-hander. And now heading down the pit straight and across the line will go Lincoln Parner, and no improvement. Only by 6/10 though, so they're not losing too much time with these dots at the moment. Videri doesn't improve, nor does Willows. Look like Willows got held up by Videri anyway. Chong is not going to improve because she was in that traffic for quite a while. Does not improve, nor does Roke, nor does Kupok. Here comes Roland Motrin. Across the line he will go. And it's not going to be an improvement for him, I don't think. And no, it won't. De Rosa improves to go up into 15th, so a slight improvement there for him. As here is Felix Sontag making his way down the pit straight. I don't think he's going to improve, but we're just going to see anyway. And Note remains in 20th position. And here is Catalan, the last person on the lap. He was the last one to cross the line. Just rounding the Casio chicane he goes, making his way, flicking it in through this flat-out right-hander, as now heading down this pit straight. And let's see what lap time it's going to be. It's not going to be an improvement across the line. A 1:31.742. So that's practice concluded then, with Gal at the top, Lopez in second, and Willows in third. So what do you make of that session overall, Mirren?
Well, I must say that Miklos had it quite easy with that. Topped the timing sheets, and yeah, he just kind of kept it through the session. Lopez in second, I'd say he inched very close at the end, and yeah, unfortunately for Sontag with that transmission failure, but yeah, as you said, he did get back in the spare car. But other than that, a few raindrops at the end. As you said, the rain maybe came a bit too late, as we did have forecasted rain. But other than that, it was quite an interesting session.
Was indeed. Whether that will be the case in qualifying, we'll have to wait and see. Well, we're going to briefly go offline, guys, and we'll start a fresh stream for the qualifying session. But for the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Mirren FG, and we will see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a